Hi, everybody. Welcome to Winsight Live. I'm Jon Springer of Winsight Grocery Business in New York. I'm glad you could be with us. Today, we've got Jenn Strailey, Winsight Grocery's editor-in-chief in Denver, Kat Martin, our content manager in Iowa today, not
Yes.
Chicago. Brett Dworsky in Chicago. He's with our CSP group. And as always, the supermarket guru, Phil Lempert in Santa Monica. Phil, let's start off with a quick discussion. Albertsons IPO. The initial trading wasn't quite as robust, perhaps, as they had hoped. The price started lower than they expected. However, I spoke with Vivek Sankaran, their CEO, afterwards, and what really carried the conversation was his confidence that the shift of food at home is going to be a long-term sustainable thing, and that they really seen very little value behavior among its shoppers. So as long as sports venues and movies and those kinds of things are shut down, people are going to offices less. These are the good days for supermarkets.
They are, John. And what's interesting to me, when I take a look, in fact, I had a great conversation just yesterday with one of the ex-CEOs of SuperValue and the vice president of innovation at Albertsons, also has since left the company. Both have worked with Vivek. Let's remember that technology is the heart of Vivek. And one of the things that they've really been ramping up for is e-commerce, pick up and collect, and so on. And in our conversation yesterday, what was so interesting to me is the guy who led innovation is really the one who created the whole Safeway.com, which is very, very sophisticated and probably ahead of its time when they put it in. So we were talking about how e-commerce is really going to be driving a lot of what happens at Albertsons. And, we talked about Instacart, we talked about Albertsons, and I pulled up on my iPhone, and I'm going to read it. On Instacart, at least here in Southern California, what it says is when you bring it up, higher than in-store prices. Item prices are higher than in-store prices in your area. In-store prices, promotion, offers, coupons, and discounts may not apply. Purchases do not earn loyalty points. So the interesting thing about Albertsons is they've been talking a lot about the 21 million people who are part of their loyalty program, and they've been relying on Instacart. But when I look at the Instacart app and I look at Vivek and everything that they've done, I would guess that what they're going to be trying to do is push people away from Instacart and back to their own, whether again it's delivery or click and collect. What do you think?
Well, I'll agree to the point that Vivek is highly interested in technology in all areas of the business, and to the extent that they can control, keep control of their customer all the way through, I'm sure that they would prefer it. Now, Safeway.com, they've got their origins in a Texas thing called Grocery Works. Am I right?
Exactly.
I do recall that 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it's an ex-IBM guy who I was talking to, who went on there to lead their innovation. And he was really explaining what behind the scenes is there. And I wouldn't be surprised if very soon we see all the Albertsons banners, trying to push customers into their own program so that they can use coupons and loyalty and everything else that we've talked about as people are getting sticker shock as they're getting those, Instacart bills on their credit cards. But the other thing that's interesting from Nielsen is total U.S. in-store year-over-year CPG growth is up 13.9%. Seafood is the leader, up 38% in meat department. Frozen up 24.1%, and meat 24%. Now, what's interesting is they register that in-store prices are elevated for total CPG at 6.4%, for total in-store food and beverage, 8%. But then the USDA comes out and they predict for the year, it's only going to increase 3%. I don't get it. If it's already up 8%, and we've heard from a lot of producers that it's going to go up even higher, is the USDA pulling the wool over our eyes for political reasons so we don't panic and say that, prices are going up. Let's worry about the recession and what effect is. So I'm very surprised to see the USDA do that. On good news, Deloitte just issued a report. The subtext is convenience stores take over with a question mark. According to the report, retailers are offering the most convenient experience, drove most of the market growth from 2016 to 2019. Obviously, pre-COVID, e-commerce drove 47% of incremental retail growth, followed by convenience at 33%, grocery stores only 11%. Brett, what do you think about that report?
That's it's really fascinating and really interesting. As I've spoken about on this Facebook Live before, convenience stores over the past handful of years, I think more than ever, have really focused on innovation in their area, whether it's in food service or technology. They're really trying to become more of a destination inside the store compared to someone just coming to fill up on gas. So really encouraging for the space overall.
And also, I was on a global call earlier this morning where we were talking a lot about the food supply and how COVID-19 has affected it. And my European counterparts were really talking about how convenience stores have risen in importance in delivery, something that you've been talking about for weeks now. The convenience stores, at least in Europe, have really taken over on a lot of the delivery business.
Yeah, I mean, delivery in general in C-stores, and I can't really speak too much about how the C-store landscape in Europe operates. But at least here in the United States, and especially during the pandemic, delivery operations are as essential as they've ever been in convenience, especially if operators want to, uh, you know, compete against QSRs and fast food restaurants as they've tried to been for the last couple of years. Delivery is absolutely essential right now, and a lot of C-store operators are starting to hop on, not even just the large chains, but smaller, more local ones as well.
So what's going on with Foxtrot?
Sure. So speaking of delivery, so Foxtrot is a chain of convenience stores that started just in Chicago. They're like an upscale kind of urban convenience retailer. So they're not like your typical 7-Eleven. You walk in, they have dining seating. It's like a coffee shop, bookstore, convenience store hybrid almost. There's one location that used to be where I used to live in Lincoln Park in Chicago, where they have like if you've heard of Jenny's ice cream, they're really popular. They have like one of those attached to it. So big news the other day, Foxtrot just announced they're expanding. So they're opening their 8th store in Chicago, actually on June 2nd this week. And then they have 2 locations in Dallas, but they've also just announced that they're opening 2 locations in the Washington, D.C. area, and that they are also laying the groundwork to hopefully expand to Boston, Austin, Texas, and New York very soon.
So their expansion plan seems odd to me, that they go to Washington, D.C., and they're only opening up 2, and they go to this city, they're only opening up 2 or 3. Wouldn't it make more sense to go into a market like Washington, D.C., open up a dozen of them or 20 of them, capture that market, and then go on to another area?
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely get what you're saying, but at the same time, the Foxtrot is not a massive corporation where they have all this funding. They recently did get funding in February from a couple investment firms, ventures, but it was only about 17 million. So I mean, their budget is limited to what they can do, and obviously since they are a hybrid and they have so many different facets of their stores, I'm not sure how much each store costs to build, but they're clearly taking the process one store at a time. But it's encouraging to see that they're expanding outside of Chicago into the eastern part of the country as well.
So Jen, UFCW is not happy.
No, they held a press conference last week, and taking a look at 100 days since the start of the pandemic and where we are now, and they're still fighting for reinstatement of hazard pay and increased wages for frontline workers. They want the minimum wage to be $15 an hour. They want masks to be a mandate nationally. We started talking before we went live that depending on where you live, the mask issue is different. In New York and Chicago, people are just wearing masks, but you get into smaller towns and it's just not the case. And then the third thing that they're calling for is a national registry that tracks COVID-19 cases among frontline workers.
Interesting. So, even forget small towns, but here in Santa Monica, I would say less than half of people are wearing masks. And I would expect total different. Now, the UFCW also reported that so far 11,507 workers, grocery workers, have been infected or exposed to the virus. How successful do you think that they're going to be with this effort for a registry, getting $15 an hour and getting masks done? I know that they're very upset. I know that they've been very proactive for day one. We talked before about how the idea of an essential worker, grocery workers, while they've been deemed essential, don't feel very essential through this controversy.
I think these are also, some of these are really, national issues. I mean, I was just, before we got on the call, I was listening to CNN, and the Senate is meeting with Dr. Fauci, and, the senator from Alaska says that the way they're tracking COVID-19 cases is with like an Excel spreadsheet that gets faxed to an office. I mean, like, this is not a national standard for record keeping.
So as we see these reopenings, and obviously certain states are now pushing back. Here in California, Governor Newsom stopped the bars from opening, stopped other businesses from opening as cases increase. And this isn't even the second wave that everybody, that Fauci and so on were talking about happening in the fall. So is this like a pre-second phase? And what effect do you think that this is going to have on grocery stores, in particular, but the food business in general?
Well, I mean, I can say that, as long as this pandemic goes on, and the longer it takes to figure out really how we're going to get beyond it, the better it's going to be for food retailers in general, because people are going to be forced to eat their meals at home. Right. You're not going to be able to get out to restaurants. You're not going to be able to resume your office and your normal life. But, I think Jen alluded to it earlier. There's just been a complete, vacancy of leadership on this, really from the beginning, and a lot of kind of pointing fingers, and it's your responsibility, it's my responsibility, whatever. And tied into that is the social injustice protests we're even hearing. I mean, this country's in a mess right now. And, look, it's good if you happen to be an essential business, but geez, for everybody else, it's a highly anxious, stressful time for the country, and we're not getting anywhere.
So, you mentioned eating at home. And if we look at the stats of eating at home, certainly more of us are eating at home. But I was shocked to learn early this morning that the consumption of fruits and vegetables with us eating at home has not increased, and in many cases has decreased. And we're seeing more food waste at home because of, fruits and vegetables just going bad before people are eating it. So we know that we want a stronger immunity to fight COVID-19. We know that fruits and vegetables are good for us. Every campaign says 5 a day, and we're up around 3.4% or 3.4 servings a day. Wouldn't this be a time that we would think, and I'd love everybody's opinion on this, that people would be eating more fruits and vegetables, not less?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen from IRI that, produce sales have held pretty steady at, I think, around 12%, 15% above last year. So like you alluded to, people are buying produce, but just anecdotally.
Not eating it.
Right. I was going to say, me personally, I buy my produce every 2 weeks when I go to the store, and, about 50% of it is tossed out because I'm also buying chips, and I'm like, given a choice, am I going to choose, an apple or chips? And I'm like, I'm stuck at home. I'm going to choose the chips.
Right.
So I think it's a continuation of what we've always seen. People say they're doing a lot of things, but when they actually report on what they do, it's different than what they say. And I think especially in a pandemic, they are still attempting to be good. And we see that health and wellness is still a top concern.
Absolutely.
But when it comes down to practice and they're feeling maybe a little confined or, a little down, depression rates are up, then they are going to turn to that comfort food, to the, cookies that they maybe normally wouldn't buy and eat. And, and so, just personally, yeah, my food waste probably has gone up since before the pandemic.
So Kat, has Target finally woken up for food delivery?
Let's hope. Yeah, so Target is now offering fresh and frozen products for grocery pickup. They had always offered curbside pickup for the last couple of years, I think, which was, a great service that they offer. But now they have added 750 items across produce, dairy, bakery, meat, and frozen. They had first tested this in a couple of spots, the Twin Cities and Kansas City here in the Midwest. And it seemed to do really well. So they're now expanding it to 400 stores throughout the Midwest. And then they say by the holidays, it will be more than 1,500 stores, which is about, I think, 3/4 of their total stores. So hopefully they will see that, seeing what grocery stores have done with curbside pickup and delivery, that they can now get into the game. I would assume that it did require some, investment on equipment on the back end, because you pick these orders and, they have to go into refrigeration or freezers or whatever. So that would probably be why it's kind of a slow rollout here in the beginning, just to see how it is working. But hopefully they will continue.
Sorry. I'm surprised that it is a slow rollout, because when they bought Shipt, they bought a lot of really smart technology and a lot of really smart delivery services. And the concept, maybe for our viewers who don't know the difference between Instacart and Shipt, besides the fact that Target owns Shipt, is that what Shipt tries to do, and try needs to be underscored, is they try to match the customer with the shopper, the Shipt shopper, as often as they can, so that shopper gets to know your habits, that really gets to know, what you like, and become a personal shopper, if you would, versus just somebody that you'll never see again. So it surprises me that the Target is almost moving away from that and thinking about curbside. Is it all about money, because nobody's making money in delivery and they just want to capture that business?
I mean, my thoughts on Target, the expansion of pickup is kind of related, I think, to the own progress that they've made in selection and merchandising and all the other work that they've had to do in grocery. And you're going to be a grocer today, you have to have groceries how and when people want it. And that includes pickup, that includes delivery, that includes well merchandised, fresh quality stores. And, if you think back to where they were a couple of years ago, they really weren't able to kind of play in that. Now, the Target officials are thrilled about their pickup business. They think that it's been great for them. It probably has. I think the other part of it, the grocery part of it, is that, picking groceries off the shelves and delivering to people's cars is a time-consuming, difficult, probably unprofitable process. And it's so they've got to be able to, work that. They need the employees to work that. They need to train them. They need to do that. You don't execute this stuff right, and you can find another grocer who can do the same. So progress for Target on from a low base.
So John, you wrote a great piece that pickup could be the next self-checkout. Tell us more.
Yeah, this arose from a couple of experiments that U.S. retailers have done, Walmart including, of these kind of tiny refrigerators that'll lie out in the parking lot of a retailer that has and can distribute your grocery pickup orders through automation. It has a lot of reasons to recommend it, especially in these times. It's touch-free, it's pickup, it's don't go into a store. It's more efficient probably than this handoff I was just describing with Kroger. Now, there's a couple of companies that, interestingly enough, they're all out in kind of far-flung European countries, Estonia, Poland, Greece, that are building these things. And they work for those cities. Estonia is apparently the pickup capital of Earth. The shopping gets done there at these depots. Interesting stuff. It robotically will store a bin of groceries for you, and then take them out for you. And what the operators or the vendors were telling me were that, listen, these things work great in Estonia. We're working on a bigger one for the US because our average grocery sizes are bigger. They might have some problems. They have one window for pickup. They might need 4. There's another guy who's working on a system, kiosk to pick up, but it's actually part of a larger system that's also going to be micro fulfillment of the grocery from the back of the store, carting it over to the thing. So it's another example of technology kind of finding more efficient ways to do things that people really want to do right now. And I'd be very surprised if we didn't see a lot more experimentation with these things in the US soon.
So John and everyone else, love for you to weigh in on this. With all this technology, with all this pickup, with all this delivery, are we at risk, and the changes that have been made and will be made in grocery stores, are we at risk of ruining, that store experience that Vivek, has given a lot of interviews about, that Albertsons, one of the reasons that they wanted this money is to make that in-store experience that much better, so that when you go to an Aldi to shop for price, or you go to, a Sam's or a Walmart or even a Target, that Albertsons can offer a much better in-store retail experience. Are we at risk of losing that?
I think it's in addition to, not instead of. I've just seen another flurry of new store openings in the last 5 days or so, and beautiful stores. Whole Foods just opened 2. Raley's just opened a new concept, One Market, that's really focused on nutrition.
It's actually ONE. I was correct.
Oh, okay, you say
by their CEO.
Okay,
it is
ONE.
really
But focused on nutrition education and helping people to make healthier choices.
Organic nutrition and education.
Store.
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
From the C-store perspective on this, and I can't speak too much on the grocery side for it, but for C-stores, so a couple months ago, CSP we put out a survey for our annual food service handbook, and over half of C-store operators actually responded to that survey that they think delivery, curbside pickup, mobile ordering, all these will actually become more common than in-store purchasing. Whether that actually happens is to be seen, is unknown at the moment. But the word convenience, especially for this industry, is constantly evolving, and it depends on what that means for the larger corporations like 7-Eleven compared to more independent local shops. Because I know a lot of those local C-store operators in various parts of the countries, customers walk in, they know the cashiers, they know the people who own the store, they're friends with them, they're all part of that community. So that might differ compared to where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of 7-Elevens everywhere, where maybe it's not as crucial to have that connectivity between the customers and the people in the store, and maybe delivery and curbside may become more focused on that in-store experience.
Kat, what do you think about the in-store experience?
I think to Jen's point, it's not going to be an either or. I think right now, depending on where you live in the country, people are a little bit more hesitant to go into stores and spend time in stores, and are turning towards the delivery or the curbside pickup. But I think there is a big population of the country who really enjoy grocery shopping and really enjoy, spending time and walking around and seeing the new products and seeing, what stores are offering on how to prepare certain items. So I think that there is a space for both. I think probably both sides will continue to grow. There will be the ones who just want curbside or delivery, And it might be the same consumer. Sometimes they want curbside or delivery, and then, you know, the next week they have some time, they want to go explore a store. But I think the stores that are going to continue to see increased customer counts are going to be the ones who offer an experience, or might not likely be the ones who, you know, are more middle of the road. It's a continuation of the bifurcation that we saw previous to the pandemic, where it's either value or experience, and kind of the middle of the road is not going to offer much.
Yeah, I'll add two thoughts to that. You know, one, the digital customer is great for supermarkets because they also shop more in the stores. Most of the retailers will tell you. You know, secondly, you know, the Albertsons experience would tell you that well merchandised, fresh stores, you know, are a big element of how well they're doing, both with sales and profits today. So I don't think that's going away, despite how big a chunk of the industry eventually goes digital.
And Jen, to wrap up, some good news for us?
Yeah, absolutely. In honor of Pride Month, Stop and Shop is donating $50,000 to 7 local organizations that support LGBTQ equality.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, with that, it's it for Winsight Live for today. Hope you'll join us on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific and 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, remember that all our previous episodes are archived right on Winsight Grocery Business Facebook and website, and on Supermarket Guru Facebook and website as well. And until Thursday, be safe, be happy, and go shopping.